Picture an anchor, not a small one, an industrial anchor, the kind that weighs several tons. Now picture it dragging across the ocean floor for 100 miles. That's not a hypothetical. That's what investigators believe happened in the Baltic Sea on November 17, 2024. A Chinese cargo ship called Yi Peng 3 had left a Russian port 2 days earlier. No declared destination. And somewhere below its hull, an anchor began to move. At 10 in the morning, a telecom company in Lithuania received an alert. The cable connecting Sweden and Lithuania gone. Hours later, the only direct data cable between Finland and Germany severed. Western investigators later concluded the ship's Chinese captain had received instructions from Russian intelligence via encrypted communications relayed by Russian vessels nearby. The ship eventually sailed away. No one was arrested. No one has been charged. Almost no one outside of Europe talked about it. Because the story isn't really about a cable. It's about what that cable was carrying and who decided it needed to stop. Here is something most people have never thought about. The internet is not in the air. It's not in satellites. It's not in the cloud. It's on the floor of the ocean. 95% of all international data, every message, every financial transaction, every military communication between governments, travels through physical cables laid on the seabed. 600 of them, 1.2 million kilometers, the equivalent of circling the Earth 30 times at the bottom of the ocean. $10 trillion moves through them every single day. Satellites carry less than 5% of global traffic. They're slower, more expensive, and they cannot come close to matching the bandwidth. There is no wireless alternative at scale. Not today, not in the next decade. The internet has a body, a physical body, made of glass and copper, lying in the dark at the bottom of the sea, and almost no one, until very recently, thought it needed defending. What's happening to those cables didn't begin in November 2024. It began with a different explosion. September 26, 2022. 2 gas pipelines running through the Baltic Sea, destroyed by underwater blasts. Not an accident, deliberate sabotage. The investigation is still officially open. The message was clear, even if no one said it out loud. Critical infrastructure under the sea can be destroyed, and you can't stop it. 1 year later, October 2023, a Chinese-owned vessel drags its anchor across the Gulf of Finland, severing a gas pipeline and 2 data cables simultaneously. It sails through the Baltic, through the Danish Straits, into Russian waters, unreachable. Beijing eventually admits responsibility. They call it an accident. Then November 2024, Yi Peng 3, 2 cables, 1 night. Then Christmas Day 2024, a tanker called Eagle S strikes 5 cables in a single pass through the Gulf of Finland. Finnish Coast Guard boards it in international waters. Legally controversial, necessary. Another cable was next. Between 2022 and early 2025, more than a dozen suspicious incidents in the Baltic Sea alone. This is not bad luck. Someone is testing something, and they have been getting away with it. Let's be precise about what's at stake. The Sea Lion one of the 2 cables cut in November 2024, was Finland's only direct data connection to Central Europe. Not a backup line, the line. The other cable cut that same night provided 1/3 of Lithuania's total internet capacity. Repairing a single cable costs up to $3 million and requires ships so specialized that only around 80 exist on the entire planet. Permitting a loan before repairs can even begin takes up to 8 weeks. Now consider this. Cut multiple cables simultaneously across multiple locations. Overwhelm the repair fleet, and the damage doesn't last days, it lasts months. The entire digital economy dark for months. That's not a worst case scenario. That's a Tuesday, if someone decides to make it happen. Here's the part most coverage misses entirely. Russia and China are not running the same operation. They're running 2 different ones on the same infrastructure. Russia's play is disruption. Its Yantar intelligence ship, officially a research vessel, has been tracked for years, loitering near cable routes across the North Atlantic. and the Baltic. In November 2024, the Irish Navy had to escort it out of Irish waters. It was mapping cables connecting Ireland to the United Kingdom. NATO confirmed in 2023 that Russia is actively charting the cable networks of its Western allies. Russia maintains a dedicated deep-sea military unit, submarines capable of operating at depths of over 6,000 meters, built specifically to interact with what lies on the ocean floor. The goal: know exactly where every cable is, know exactly how to cut them at the moment of maximum impact. China's play is subtler. China's HMN Technologies, formerly Huawei Marine Networks, has built roughly 10% of all new subsea cables installed globally since 2020. A Chinese state company called SB Submarine Systems repairs cables owned by Google and Meta. While doing so, their ships have been caught disabling their location tracking, going dark, while operating near Taiwan and Indonesia. No explanation offered. Think about what that means. The company repairing the cables knows exactly where they run, exactly how deep, exactly where they're most vulnerable. China doesn't need to cut the internet. It just needs to know how, and to be capable of fixing it when someone else does. And then there is Yi Peng 3, a Chinese ship suspected of acting under Russian direction. 2 strategies, 1 hull, 1 night. NATO responded in January 2025. Baltic Sentry, frigates, patrol aircraft, naval drones, an AI system tracking every ship in the Baltic Sea in real time. The EU passed a dedicated cable security action plan. 9 nations signed a joint statement committing to exclude high-risk vendors from their networks. And when Yi Peng 3 stopped in Danish waters, investigators gathered around it. They could watch. They could not board, not without Chinese approval. China took weeks. Swedish prosecutors were denied access entirely. Here is why that happened. The international legal framework protecting undersea cables was written in 1884, the year of the telegraph. In the 140 years since, it has been publicly invoked exactly once. When an American warship boarded a Soviet trawler during the Cold War. We built the most important infrastructure in human history, fiber optic cables carrying the entire digital economy of civilization, and we decided to protect them with a law written for the telegraph. NATO can patrol, it can monitor, it can deter. It cannot stop a ship that drags an anchor and then, legally, sails away. Deterrence requires consequences. Right now, there are almost none. More undersea data cables connect to Europe than to any other continent on Earth. The AI boom will require more of them. The energy transition will require more of them. Every model, every transaction, every message, all of it flowing through cables lying unguarded in the dark. In November 2024, 2 cables were cut in a single night. A ship dragged an anchor for 100 miles across the seabed. Investigations are still open. No one has been charged. The next cut is probably already in motion. Not because the technology is vulnerable, because we decided for a very long time that it wasn't worth defending. Someone else noticed.